Сега ще поканя Пол, който ще ни разкаже практически за работата на консорциума. Той освен това е изпълнителен директор на Румънския център за разследваща журналистика и е в основата на множество значими проекти.
Well, a data journalist project usually starts with a broad idea. You know that there's data out there, financial data, governmental data, company data, all sorts of information that you can mine, you can process in order to find patterns. And in my case and in my organization's case, we want to track down criminals. So say you know that a registry of companies has been made available somewhere in a country. What we do in that case is we could scrape that registry of companies and we look for lists of names. Usually those would be people of interest, as we call them, persons of interest, politicians, sometimes criminals, all sorts of such individuals. And we mine for names, but then step two, we actually mine for patterns. So we look for various constructions that we already identified as belonging to organized crime or to corrupt politicians, because crime repeats itself. So once you identified, for instance, that politicians are using companies from the Seychelles, based in this place in Seychelles, in order to hide their money, then it's probably it's very possible that other politicians, then the ones that you already identified, are using the same kind of methods, the same kind of schemes. So starting from data, sometimes it's big data, sometimes it's smaller data, we mine for patterns and we find stories. So it's not like we have the stories defined at the very start, but we find the stories in the data. This is one approach. The other approach would be you know exactly what you're looking for, and you go through very large data sets in many countries in order to build the cross-border network, to map out the corruption network that usually flows across borders, across frontiers. It takes a network to fight a network, and what you do is you have to look for journalists that you can trust, but mostly for journalists that are really skilled in what they do. So what we do at my organization is we are organizing these workshops, but they are very hands-on. So let's say there are 2 or 3 days workshops somewhere in Belarus, let's say, and there we go with data sets, with data, and we give away this data to the journalists participating, or sometimes activists. They don't have to be journalists, and they start working with this data, and then we pick from them a few names, a few people that can be included in our, let's say, circle of trust. But it takes time to build a network. So at first we're seeing a network as a core group of people that we really trust, and then there's people in the fringes, that we don't know if we should trust or not, and we test them by giving them a smaller type of work. Like for instance, we need from Minsk, this, I'm just saying Minsk, but it can be Chisinau, it can be Moscow, it can be anywhere, Bucharest. We give them some really small assignment, like can you go and interview this person, can you go and just retrieve a company record from a court, or get a dossier or a file or something. And then the more these people in the fringes prove themselves, the more they're closer to the, let's say, circle of trust, and then there is where you actually have the network. Obviously, it varies, how a journalist is able to work with data, and the main point is we're always learning. I mean, I can't say about myself that I'm a data journalist, because I keep on learning, and I try to learn every day. So there's no such thing as you reach the level where you're a data journalist, because data is such a it's like quicksand, it's moving in all directions, so you always have to adapt to it. So I'd say in some cases, right after a few workshops, there were great investigative reporters that came out of those, and maybe in a matter of months. But of course, to develop, it takes years and years and years and continuous work.